Evening to you. I thought I was going to take you around my room. Actually, I'll take you around my room a bit, actually. This is the secret diary of Kedjanyi, and you can see this is where I am, where I'm at. It's a really nice place, actually. I'm very happy with it. I love Stratford. It means a lot to me because this is basically where I grew up properly. So to come back on my first day being 25 is actually quite emotional. I haven't really processed it, to be honest with you. Everything's just going so fast, and I'm looking forward to bedding down and then getting going on tomorrow's big day. There's so much to talk about today, I can't really write it down. That's not fair on the excellent day, Stuart. So yeah, basically here it is. Now, thing number one, the tree planting saga. It started with a tweet from Chris Mason in which he basically broke down how long it would take, or how many people you would need. No, it was how long it would take to basically plant, I think it's 100 million trees or something, or 1 billion trees by 2040, which is the Labour plan. Now, long story short, it's eminently doable, because only 13% of this country is actually wooded land, and we've got a reasonably big population. And a professional tree planter, and I have to thank Adam Ramsey on Twitter for finding this, can basically plant about, I think it's like 1,000 in a day. So long story short, we can plant tons of trees. Other countries have done it. Ethiopia, India, all done this at a huge scale. People pointed this out to him. A lot of people got very angry. I think it just should have been made clearer that it was clearly possible to do. But at the same time, it is also the raw numbers. We're in a bit of a rock and a hard place with these things. I think with environmental promises, one thing that all journalists should do is they need to have acute context with them. Because most of these plans are A, necessary for the survival of the planet, and B, you'll have usually seen them somewhere else. Right, so thing two, the IFS. Bad for Labour and bad for the Tories, basically. Good for Lib Dems. The Lib Dem manifesto, for the Lib Dems, seems to be, or for what at least most people think to be Lib Dems, seems to me to be quite a bold offer. It is nowhere near Labour's, but it's a damn sight further than the Tories, assuming it was ever hypothetically implemented. One thing with manifestos that I don't quite... This is going to sound really fake, right? But I don't... With manifestos, right, we only ever seem to have negative costings. It's like that tax allowance thing. If the marriage tax credit is going, then, people saying it's a tax hike. Well, the scrapping of an allowance isn't a hike. But if you're taking that at face value, and you're saying, or you're assuming, let's say, the whole of the manifesto is implemented, or let's say 2/3 of it even, then surely there are going to be married couples with kids that benefit more from extra childcare, for instance. You would probably save more if you were a married couple and you had kids and you had free childcare for them between, let's say, 2 and 4. Then £250 a year. You'd save way more than £250 a year, depending on where you lived. Just as an example. And I wonder possibly if it might become a thing in the future to look at the potential benefits alongside the costings, even though I know that's not specifically how he cost it. That must sound really stupid. Thing number 3, I'm going to go for the Boris Johnson no issue at the climate debate. Right, basically, there's an argument developing here, which just seems to go vote leave or whatever, do these outrageous things, and people react to them a lot. And they have the conversation that we want them to have, and like, oh my gosh, aren't you losing? Aren't you silly? Etc. Etc. Well, actually, no, that's not really the case in this particular fight. Now, Lee Kane, who is basically Director of Communications for Number 10, has gone to Ofcom to make a complaint. I don't know that there's a strategic advantage of Vote Leave here, because usually when they're having these fights, they're getting people to talk about Tory policies that they think will play popularly with the public. Did I say popularly? This is different because I don't get how Johnson seems strong from this. Like, you know, usually there's the idea of say, you know, if the Tories are implementing a policy like this, or they're trying to get everybody to talk about nursing numbers or whatever, usually there's some sort of front foot advantage. But this is just Johnson running away from things. He's just running away from the debate, and I don't know that the Channel 4 bias thing is going to hold up in the same way that, say, an attack even on the BBC would. I mean, people always go, oh my gosh, it's leftist TV, whatever. But he's running away from Andrew Neil as well. And I don't think he'll go on Andrew Neil. I don't think he'll do it. I don't think he'll do that interview. And that's another saga, frankly. The climate change debate, I don't think, went badly for any of the leaders who turned up. It went back well for everybody but Johnson, really. I think that sort of thing will probably backfire a bit, just because he's not winning in any sense. Last thing, I should round this up. The BBC and the Tory party. Now, the Tory party, long story short, have been doctoring BBC images and using them in campaign ads, and apparently they involve Laura Kuenssberg. I've really got to say this. The rates and the intensity at which the Tory party lies to this country is absolutely astonishing. I know that, for better or worse, or by all means, political parties do unfortunately quite regularly lie, but I cannot think of an equivalent in the Western world that does so brazenly, so openly, and with such consistency as the Tory party. And I am honestly saying that using just empirical evidence. There is no party agenda here in what I am saying. It is plainly the truth, and it is a campaign strategy. Effective, one might say, although I think there are other reasons behind the Tories' poll lead. If I was the BBC, I'd be looking at taking some serious action against the Tories for this. I don't think this sort of thing can stand. If this is allowed to stand, it's potentially... I mean, it's been a bad election for the BBC. They've actually created a lot of good content, but some of the mistakes have been really damaging for them publicly. If this is allowed to slide, it sets an enormously dangerous precedent. Enormously dangerous. And last but not least, if you've made it all this way, tomorrow it will be really, really good. Right, thank you very much to everybody for watching, listening, and to the incorrigible, remarkable Day Stewart. Cheers.